Of this conference, we have two presentations by two architects who can be defined proudly as avant-gardist architects. Yonah Friedman was internationally recognized more than 30 years ago thanks to his original solution to the problem of dense urban environment in democratic society. Zvi Hecker, who for many years was the infanterie of Israeli architecture, recently won an international award with his Berlin Jewish School. On first sight, there seems to be no link whatsoever between their works, but the concept used by them and the concept used by them appear to be anti-contextual. But in fact, both architects belong to the organic trend of the post-World War II period, which needs, I hope the Sunnis are going to make this phenomenon soon be clear. Okay, now we are going to move to Yonah Friedman. Yonah Friedman was graduated, I don't know if many of you know it, in the Technion in 49. He then taught in UCLA and MIT, and he won several international rewards. Mr. Friedman reminds us that architecture is not supposed to be concerned only with museums of $1 billion and not with villas for the rich, but also with the fulfillment of the needs of the ordinary people. In the 1980s, it seemed that, I don't know if you still remember the 80s, but it seemed that no one would ever pay attention to proposals such as Yonah Friedman. But in the end of the 90s, I think we should listen to Mr. Friedman very carefully and learn a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will try to give a short introduction, and I will try to give most, it's not a long program, but rather some visual representation, if you want, a sort of a travel in an imaginary city which doesn't exist. Okay, for the introduction, first of all, I will try to change sort of a prejudice which was the basis of modern architecture. And instead of speaking about form follows function, I will try to speak about function following form, which is somebody. Can I start with the slides? Oh, no, it's an error. That's the right. First, I would like to So for Betty, this was the last, considered the last picture that social justice makes from the last the first. Yeah. But anyway, I want to start with the question, what is function? Okay, so I'll try to define that way. Function of an architectural project is defined by the equipment. I'm sorry, there something itchy. Okay, so the equipment defines each room, each space. The function is defined by a linkage scheme, how the different spaces defined by an equipment are linked among themselves. A linkage scheme is a topological figure that it can be deformed without changing its structure. The architect's project is the dual to the linkage schemes, where for every point, every summit of the linkage scheme corresponds a space, which is only defined here very schematically. What is form? Let us do the next thing. The form can be of one simple basic form, I am calling it a monomorph, or it can be a composite of such basic forms, what I will call polymorph. It doesn't matter, it's a term like any other term. We swim in the terms. The architect's artifact has a difference. Besides the outside, its inside is important. It is used through an inside. Now we define in my terms what is function and what is form, and we'll try to make the next step. The external form, what we have seen, and the internal form are not necessarily the same. If you take a converse team, the external form is the negative of the internal form and vice versa. That's not necessarily true about the architect's artifact. It can be a geometric form and the internal form can be completely irregular. Or it can be completely irregular. Outside and inside are independent. Now, beside the form, outside and inside, architect's artifact has as well as structure. The structure serves to canalize gravity. Very simple statement. The next step, there is form, there is function and structure. Who has the right of the decision? By any means, whoever makes the decision, the person who gets all the consequences out of it is the user, the inhabitant. Definitely, I know it by heart. Now, if the inhabitant is the only person who is concerned by the function and by the form, then the exterior aspect of an architect's artifact has another person who is, produces another person who is concerned. This is simply people who pass by. Somebody is walking in a street, has nothing to do with a building, but if he feels it's ugly, by any means, it's his right to be scandalized. They do it very often. The choice exerted by the inhabitant is not a rational choice in the way as we learned it in school. It can be rational if we accept that ration is as well emotional. But our preferences are always strictly, mainly emotional. Now we go one step further and we will speak about an important aspect of the architect's artifact, the structure we were talking about. The structure is rigid. It's very difficult to make changes in the structure. On the other hand, the envelope, what delimits the really used spaces, is far less rigid. And a user of a building has contact with the envelope. In this room, I know how is the envelope, I don't know how is the structure, I don't see it. I have a direct contact only with the envelope. Now, in a rigid structure, obviously, it could be any envelope inserted. I was making even the joke that somebody puts a tent in it. I was really proposing for the homeless in France, give a structure and let them squat in it. And by this term, we get really to another type of definition of the problem, that we have to invent how assisted squatting would be possible. This is, in a way, the architect's choice. Now, you see, this I learned from my dog, who is very rational and very emotional and knows how to make her decisions. And now we will get to the most difficult part. I was telling that the user has the decision of the choice, should have the basic choice. Yes, but the user changes his preferences even daily, even periodically. Users change, their preferences change. And so a building, the architect's artifact, is less one hardware reserve than a long-wearing erratic process. Erratic, I am taking in the sense that from the state A, you cannot predict the state B. This is the definition of erraticity. It can develop, the next step can be anything. And if the house itself has at least some hardware components, the house has its own free will. It accepts or doesn't accept certain choices by the user. And somehow I would try to make the statement, what we have seen with all the presentations here, a building, I think I lost my mind. Okay, so I am somewhat glad here, but thank you. Oh, that's fine. So excuse me for just giving an interview. So the hardware part of has its own way too. You cannot transform certain things in certain other things. So the house has its own free will. And what the user and the house do in this erratic process, they learn, in quotation signs, each other. So this was the very simple introduction I wanted to tell, which evidently was very simplified, as I had to do relatively fast. And now I will go further and try to show drawings, photomontages, photographs, simply to explain what I mean visually under erraticity. I mean visually under erraticity that from any of the images, any other image could follow. So let us try, I hope that. Okay, so I wanted to show this drawing. It is simply an impossible composition. Floating spaces, rooms, whatever you want, floating in free space. Evidently, this is impossible. But if I'm taking this kind of structure, or this kind of structure, it is possible. I am showing as well a model of this structure, and here the floating somethings of the first drawing are within the structure of the second drawing. It is not a rigorous drawing. I have made enough of them and fed up with it, and I wanted far more to show really the visual impression. This kind of building, it has no elevation, it has no definite plan, it has its plan for a moment. Next moment, it might be different. And I think this is a kind of architecture which is slightly different from the current models. If you are interested, it was controlled technically, it's absolutely possible, and so on. That's a long story. Again, a similar goal. Oh, it doesn't matter. I was using the bed. Oh, I made an error with the switches, you know. So this is, for example, an axonometry of the kind of drawing you have seen before. Here is the structure drawn in. So if the other one was a perspective, this is, you want an aerial view, an axonometry. And this is a model which was quite often published. A part of it belongs now to the Museum of Modern Art in Paris, Centre Pompidou. This shows a more realistic view of the first. And now we can go further. This drawing is as well in the center, Centre Pompidou. This one as well. These are drawings of the permanent collection. But this drawing was made on the basis of a model. That's what I was putting it upside down. It doesn't matter. It's my error. It's after an earthquake. And this is a joke I permitted me to give the present to Rotterdam of such a structure. It is simply a postcard, and I was drawing on it over, I don't know even how it is called, this part, over the water. This was a long time ago my project I was making for the competition of the Centre Pompidou. Now the drawing is their property. So that is a Mexican family. And now I want to show in the same kind of structure very different possibility of spaces. I am not favoring for one or the other. It is I am always making I would be a very bad guy, and you know, I would always have to leave. So this is again on a postcard. Again, postcards, all the postcards. I was interested in a moment to see how would it fit into the city. Obviously, I would never propose it over the Place de Concorde. But after all, why not? Because if you want to present, this I learn when teaching, if you want to present an idea, you have to shock. And these postcards were made in order to shock. All these things are no projects, but visualization. This is where the is less shocking. Now, all these are combination over the water. This was a project for skyscraper very long time ago. This was a conference on tall buildings in Latin. I want always to show that the formal results are imprevisible, and I was starting that the function can adapt. I find this more acceptable for my taste. Obviously I might be wrong, more acceptable than actually built tower buildings. But it is exactly, it has the same rentability. Don't ask me why, I will explain it later. I don't want to take it down. This was all for the tall building conference. Now, I will take the same drawings you have seen and present it as mirror image. So making a mixing. They are montages made with my own drawings. I want really, that I cannot repeat enough, to make realize the incredible complexity that exactly this reality, the random behavior of big pupil of the user can produce. It is the same thing. They are like you made here a random town planning in this room. The pattern you are sitting here, you made here a random composition because everybody of you is differently clad. So in this room, each time that there is a public, there is another composition. And that's what I am trying to take over to the, if you want, to the town stage. Now, here, one step further, it's not mirror image of 2, but there are 3. 3 times copies. The drawings you have seen. Okay, that's another one. When I had to transfer into the carousel basket my slides, I made some mistakes, so excuse me. For me, this is a potential architecture. Now, I will arrive for a moment. I'll present one potential architecture. Can I ask from you a sheet of paper?
Yes, of course.
So, anything that you thank you. I am calling this a complex sheet structure. You see, if you have a paper sheet, it has no constructive qualities. It has, this way, it has certain constructive qualities, but it will have pressure to the top. If I am doing this, suddenly it gets a constructive quality. This has, I am not going again into the details. Okay, this we started with models and here I go to the models. No, it's not simply a cluttered paper sheet, but it gives a good demonstration. Now, I was doing a very irresponsible act. And I made an impossible project, a shadow roof over the temple here in Jerusalem. Which doesn't cover, you know, this is only a photomontage. It will not be realized, but really, simply to give you an idea of such a structure. This was published in the Zodiac. I was taking the photos with Zodiac published. And now after this, I am showing a few pictures about a more realistic project I proposed in 1991 when I was invited to the Technion after many years to the Technion, a possibility of I called it a neo-boulder, a structure all along 80 kilometers along the coast, about, let us say, 300 meters or 1 kilometer according to the profile of the sea bottom, a long bridge down. That means extending the country's territory to the seaside. And this is technically and financially possible. I will show that's not bad. I'm sorry. Okay, I will jump. This is my view about the complexity. This I had to present in Germany some 4 or 5 years ago. But an idea that dates from very long time. The big cities in Europe are sitting on the railway. The railway network defines the cities. With the high-speed trains, this becomes a metro, a subway, if you want, not necessarily subway. I came from Paris to The Hague in something more like 3 hours. And it is till now very unworking in Europe. But when I was last time in Japan, some 6 years ago, the Shinkansen, the high-speed train, was going every 5 minutes. It was really that sudden. So by my error with the slides, I could give this cycling out. And now we are on this bridge down of Israel. And by the way, when I first time proposed this kind of bridge down, this was for the Channel Bridge, for the British Channel. The idea was that there is a rolling traffic in the structure and a vertical exchange between road, train, and sea. And this, I think, for the last one. This is like this bridge downs, all 4 large continents of the world tied together. I was doing this very long time ago, I think in the early 60s, and the interesting that the gaps are less than 150 kilometers for this kind of network. So I think I will finish with this global vision. And I thank you for the patience you are listening to me, and I'm sorry for the errors I was making. Thank you.